Oh, hi! You just caught me celebrating because I just went down to my local LCS and picked up a new haul of comic books. Before we get started with the books I picked up, I just want to give a quick shout out to my LCS, Alpha Comics. Great store, great owner Kevin, super nice guy, and he helped me send in a lot of my big books to CGC for grading. He did a great job, so thank you very much. So I used to own about 10,000 comic books, but a few years ago I sold off 99% of that collection. And now I'm just trying to recollect some of those books that I lost. Like those first few books I owned when I was a kid, from my childhood collecting days. And I got a pretty good healthy stack of those books. So let's take a look. So back when I first started collecting, I was a huge Punisher fan, so I had a ton of Punisher books. And I was happy to find these books the other day. This one here is Punisher number 50, and in this one, the Punisher's in a church confessing his sins, which there's probably a lot of them. And then this woman comes up to him, thinks he's a priest, and asks for her help because her son went missing while building a dam. Turns out the guy building the dam violated a bunch of safety codes and whatnot, and a lot of people died. So the Punisher ends up killing the guy and destroying his dam. And then this one here is part 2 of the Von Strucker Gambit crossover with Daredevil part 1, and then part 3 was in Captain America Annual number 10. This one, the Punisher is looking for information from this guy, and he staples him to a kitchen table by jamming 2 knives into his shoulders. And then he gives the guy the choice to either die by being set on fire, or the Punisher is going to be merciful and shoot him in the head instead. I think he ends up shooting him in the head and then setting him on fire anyway. So that was a pretty cool book. And then over here, Punisher Armory just goes through some of his guns and weapons and whatnot and how he uses them. Pretty good book. So these next 3 books I found, I haven't read them yet because I'm waiting to complete the runs. But this is New Mutants Annual number 7, which is part of that Kings of Pain crossover. Then I've got X-Men Annual number 13, which is part of the Atlantis Attacks crossover, which is where the Atlanteans are attacking the surface world as a distraction. Well, this guy named Gar or Goher is trying to resurrect the serpent god Set. And then this one here is another part of this crossover event, the Kings of Pain. It's the Uncanny X-Men Annual number 15. So I also found these books here. This one is Superman, I believe it's volume 2, number 11, and this is one of the very, very first books I ever owned. Probably like my first 10 comic books ever. And in this one, Mr. Mxyzptlk has come to Superman's dimension, and he's trying to steal Lois Lane away from Superman. And then so he says to Superman, if you can get me to say my name, I will leave your dimension and leave Lois alone. And Superman says to him, there's no way you could duplicate that name. You just made it up on the spot. And he creates a giant typewriter and reverses the keys and gets Mr. Mxyzptlk to type his name thinking it's backwards, but it's actually forward because Superman reversed the keys, and then he banishes him away to his own dimension and defeats him. And this one here is Wolverine number 45, where Wolverine is trying to free this creature, the Hunter in the Darkness, and Sabretooth is also trying to free the creature, but by different methods, by killing people, and Wolverine's trying to save people. And then this one here is X-Men number 278. And in this one, the Shadow King is trying to trick all the X-Men into fighting and killing each other. And this guy here, the Hunter in the Darkness, looks a lot like someone I know. Okay, so next up, I got Ghost Rider number 18. The artwork in this one is very cool. It's kind of like, I would describe as like chicken scratchy type of artwork. It's done by a guy named Tex. I've never really heard of him before, but it's very good art. And in this book, Dan Ketch, who is the Ghost Rider now, the second generation Ghost Rider, his mom is visiting this cult, who is the leader of this cult is promising to revive Barbara Ketch, Dan Ketch's sister. And then so the Ghost Rider shows up, saves his mom from the cult, and it turns out the cult leader was working for Mephisto the whole time. So it was a pretty cool story. This one here is Morbius number 5, which features the first appearance of this guy, the Basilisk. Not a great story, not a great character. He just looks like a big crocodile. He's supposed to be some scary demon, but he is not. So yeah, that wasn't a great book. This one here, Web of Spider-Man number 26, which features kind of like just two run-of-the-mill crooks. We're breaking into a rail car. Spider-Man catches them. One crook rats on the other to get away. And then the other crook gets out of jail and wants to kill the other guy, and Spider-Man ends up sending them both to jail in the end. Pretty good story overall, though. This one here, Amazing Spider-Man number 35. I got this one home and then realized the Living Brain makes an appearance, and you know my thoughts on the Living Brain from my Amazing Spider-Man number 8 video, so I haven't even read this one. Probably am not going to read this one. And then over here, we've got Web of Spider-Man Annual number 6, which has Spider-Man battling the Psycho Man in like this microscopic universe. And Spider-Man teams up with a bunch of aliens to escape the microscopic universe. And then they trap Psycho Man inside his own microscopic universe. All right. So these last books I got were not part of my childhood collection, but they were cool, so I bought them. First up here is New Mutants number 40. I wanted this one because it's got Captain America battling Magneto on the cover. And what happens in this book is Emma Frost, she's up to no good and wants to just give Magneto a hard time while he's trying to go straight. So she accuses Magneto of abducting some of her students from her school in Massachusetts, sicks the Avengers on Magneto, and despite what you see on the cover, Cap and Magneto don't really battle. It's mostly Hercules and Namor who end up fighting Magneto, but still, it was a pretty good story. Then over here, I've got Thor 379. Saw Fin Fang Foom on the cover battling Thor, and I was like, yep, I gotta read this. I gotta know how that battle goes. But it was kind of a weird story. So there's some frost giants, they're in the North Sea, and they're looking for this serpent god, this Norse one that encircles the entire world. And they start fishing, and then they bring up Fin Fang Foom, who they think is the Norse god that they're looking for, but then realize he's too small. So they tell Fin Fang Foom to go battle Thor. And Fin Fang Foom travels to New York and just happens to find Thor sitting on a park bench. But before they fight, Fin Fang Foom reveals that the whole time he wasn't Fin Fang Foom, he was actually the Norse god that they were looking for in the beginning. And I was like, well, that's such a weird story. It's kind of disappointed that we don't get to see Fin Fang Foom fight Thor. But then I opened up this book and started reading it, and every single page in this book is a full page battle scene. It was awesome. Really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend reading Thor 380 if you get a chance. And then last but not least, but most importantly, I was digging through all the bins looking for something for Meg, as usual when I do my comic book runs. I looked at, Tomb of Dracula, checked out Swamp Thing, couldn't really find any good horror covers. I even looked in like Weird Western a little bit. I was about to give up, but checked out Doctor Strange right before I left and found this awesome cover. So you can see here Doctor Strange is strapped to some surgical bed, and there's like these zombie skeletons, doctor guys, who are about to operate on him while he's alive and conscious. And then there are all these people in the observatory watching. They're all dead too. And so I read the story, and it turns out these are the spirits of all the people that Doctor Strange, back before he was the master of mystic arts, when he was still a surgeon, he turned them away because they couldn't afford his services. And because they didn't have the money to pay him, they died. He could have helped them, but because they couldn't afford him, he didn't help them. So they're coming back to get their revenge on them. It was a very cool story. Again, great cover. This is going to look great in Meg's collection. I was pretty excited to get this book. And coincidentally, it was also the most expensive book I bought that day. So I got 19 books on the run to my local LCS. How much did I end up paying? 99 bucks. So not too bad. Well, there you have it. Bunch more books added back to my collection. Thanks for tuning in to another one of my great videos. We'll see you next time.